Hey everybody, how's it going? Luke Marino here, Life Cycles Live, East Partnership, working with Momentum, doing great things. Wanted to talk to you guys today about certifications. Topic is of particular interest to me as a professional, but it's also of particular interest to many of the people in my network, many of the people I work with on a daily basis, talking about whether it be the CMRP, the Certified Maintenance and Reliability Professional Certification, or something more business oriented like the Project Management Professional Certification. Those are just two easy, quick examples that are fairly common. But I feel like there's a lot of value in the conversation about why you should pursue different certifications depending on the field you work in, or why you should not pursue particular certifications, because not all certifications carry equal weight and value. Application is going to be very important. The community you work in is going to be very important. Your employer is going to be an important factor in this conversation, or where you desire to be employed is going to be an important factor. And then, of course, there is your own personal interest, both professionally and personally, in what you like to study and specialize in. So let's dive right in. I usually do these for about 30 minutes. I'm hoping to get some participation in the chat. If we're lucky enough to get some people to join us for conversation in the chat, then I want you guys to load up your questions. Feel free to comment on points I make, or whatever the case is. If not, if you're watching this later on after it's been recorded live, thanks for showing up. Thanks for coming and visiting us, and joining us for the conversation post-recording. This session, as always, is brought to you by East Partnership. EastPartnership.org is a fantastic group of entrepreneurs that bring training from a professional group of consultants to you, the learner. And we try to spread the good gospel about asset management, project management, life cycle management and engineering, lubrication engineering, RCM, all of it. So, but these are selected entrepreneurs and consultants in their fields, well-known and respected industry professionals. And we bring tremendous value courses on demand, mostly, some hybrid courses, even some live courses, to you through eastpartnership.org. So check it out. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So let's dive right into the topic for today. So when we talk about certifications, we talk about professional certifications, we're thinking about things that apply to the industry that you are particularly interested in working in. It would not make much sense for you to obtain a professional certification, invest the time and money into the certification. That is a significant investment in order to achieve a level of certification and professional achievement that you're not going to then carry into practice. A lot of people choose to do that because they are just interested, but you don't need to be certified to be educated. You don't need to be certified to be knowledgeable. You can still go obtain all of that knowledge and even practice in some places and in some cases without a professional certification. I'll use the example of a professional trainer as a good example. I was a professional personal trainer. I dealt with special populations, and I was a strength and conditioning coach. And when I did that work, I did it in a certified fashion because of the liability associated with me performing the role and responsibility of a personal trainer in a sensitive situation with clients that may have been medically compromised, or were rehabbing an injury, or had some type of medical condition that was requiring them to come work with someone with a special population certification. And so I took on a tremendous amount of liability practicing with those people, but my certification got me in the door. And then on top of my certification, I was offered liability insurance through that certification. So, that is something that sometimes your certification can offer you, is some type of professional protection. And in that case, I was protected through liability insurance that was only offered to people that certified with that particular body. And that was that certifying body's way of getting, you certified and insured through their professional organization. And that gave my clients satisfaction and peace of mind knowing that I was professionally certified by this particular body and that I carried this type of insurance. And it was a very professional exchange. So there was important weight to having that certification. Now, can you be really big into exercise and working out and helping others get healthy without that certification? Absolutely. But would you be, would you be able to practice in the same way? No, you would not. And if you did, you would be accepting a tremendous amount of liability. So there's a good example of a certification that could be, not very common. That certification is not very common, but it's in a field where people practice commonly without certification. And then there are many different types of certifications in that field, but they don't carry the same amount of weight as that particular body grants. So there's a good example of when maybe you would consider a certification over not certifying. In that instance, my clients needed to know that I was professionally certified and that I carried that type of experience, and that this body had found that I met the minimum requirements of baseline knowledge and practice and experience to be certified in their eyes. And that was important for my clients. Now, how did they test that? I had to take a 4-hour exam. It was one of the hardest exams I've ever taken. And yes, I do have my doctorate, so it was pretty good. I'm pretty good at reading how difficult exams are. And this was one of the harder exams I've ever taken because it was for the National Strength and Conditioning Association. And that particular organization certifies trainers that deal with professional athletes like the NFL, NBA, collegiate sports, the whole deal. So it was legit. Okay, now what about something a little bit more targeted, right? So maybe you're not going to get hired in certain industries without a certification. You see this a lot in the IT and cyber world. If you don't have certain levels of cybersecurity certification or IT certification, it's going to be really, really hard to even get your foot in the door. PMP is another one, right? Some specific positions for program or project managers, they are going to require that certification from the Project Management Institute, and there's no two ways around it. If you don't get the certification, it's not listed on your resume, you're probably not getting an interview, right? You're not going to pass through the candidate selection process. There's my dog over here shaking her head. But yeah, so it's really important that you understand if you're applying for jobs in particular industries that require that certification, it's going to be a must-have. And if you're applying for these jobs and it's a hard and fast requirement and there's no way around it, then you're literally wasting your time applying. Unless you've just got this magic career and they're willing to overlook it, and that would be kind of rolling the dice. So in many of those cases, they are requiring the certification because it's well established in that particular community of practice. So project management, program management, the PMI certification of the PMP, from the Project Management Institute, that is a well-established certification in that community of practice. And it is the predominant certification in that community of practice. Anyone who tells you otherwise is not really involved in that community of practice in the right way, because it's not really a matter of opinion. It's pretty, not debatable that PMI owns that space in large measure. If you go overseas, there's other certifications, so it may tip a little bit, but it's still predominant worldwide. The Project Management Institute's PMP professional is the most well-known and accepted. So that's the one you're going to have to be invested in. So other instances where certifications become very important and you really don't get much say in it is when an industry predominantly adopts a particular certification in a coordinated fashion, right? The industry, like the big players in industry get together and intentionally decide to pursue this one type of professional certification. And that sounds a little bit like what I just previously covered, but they're very different. In the previous example, it was more organic. It just had become the predominant certification in a field of practice. But in this last example I'm giving you, they are intentionally getting together and deciding that this is the certification and the only certification that they are going to pursue in people that want to fill those roles in their organizations and in their industry. And if you don't have that industry certification, good luck, right? Because this is the one that everyone's gotten together and said, this is it. This is the one we want. This is the one we're going to employ. And this is the one our people have to have. In many instances, they will even have programs that help people get certified, that work in an organization in that field as a way to feed people into that pipeline and create their own employees, because they've restricted the opportunity for people to apply for the job. So they need to create a robust candidate pool by having an active enrollment and certification program agreement, right? So, for example, when I was in the military, we had certain graduate school programs and certain certification programs that were paid for by the service and that had official programs to feed people, select people for those programs, feed them into those programs, certify them, educate them, and then put them into practice, because the service valued that one particular certification or graduate program, and they wanted people to attend it rather than recruit people that had been there. They just developed their own people and pushed them back through. And then on the back of their certification or graduate school completion, they would come back and they would have to pay the service back for the investment. So that's a situation where that was an adopted standard by that organization. And you can have the same thing happen in an industry where the industry universally accepts a certification. Now, why certifications? Well, oftentimes it's a way of recognizing that you meet a minimum quality or a minimum professional level of performance, experience, and knowledge, right? I put those three together on purpose. So the performance is, somehow you had to prove that you had this knowledge, right? And you demonstrated that knowledge. And oftentimes it says, hey, not only do we require you to pass our exam, not only do we require you to demonstrate this knowledge in an exam setting, but we also want you to have X amount of experience to even sit for the exam. PMI is a good example of this. They want you to have a certain amount of hours in project management before they will accept you as a person that can sit for their exam. They won't even let you take the exam without that permission. So they have to screen all of their potential exam participants. And once they've been screened, then they'll give you authorization to take the exam. And the reason they're doing that is they want to set a minimum baseline expectation for years of experience or hours of experience in that community of practice. You have to document that. You have to provide sources that they can contact if they want to contact those sources to verify that your claims in your application are true and valid and not exaggerated. And then they can even audit you, right? They can even audit the application you've submitted to verify for themselves that what they see is real. And then they authorize you to take the exam. So you have the experience, then you demonstrate the minimum knowledge in your exam setting. And once you've done that, they say, okay, this guy has met or gal has met the minimum baseline level of experience and knowledge in this rigorous setting to certify as a project management professional or a certified maintenance and reliability professional. You see the deal. So by doing that, they essentially promise that if you see someone applying for a position or practicing in a certain role in the field and they have our certification, you know that they've met this minimum standard, right? They've done this much work. They've demonstrated this much knowledge. And so you should expect that person can perform to a certain level, right? Now, that's really cool for people that interact with you, this certified person. But what value does that bring to you as the person that is holding the certification? It's not just about getting a job, or some jobs require this certification. It's also a way for you to very confidently express your minimum level of knowledge and experience. You can say, hey, look, I don't have to sell everyone on every little bit of my project management expertise or my maintenance and reliability knowledge because I hold this certification. It's automatically known by people that understand that certification that I've already achieved a certain amount of performance. Okay. And why would I invest hundreds of dollars in this experience? Well, sometimes you need to have that certification to get a job in that field. And that's because it is the predominantly accepted certification. And there is no substitute. Oh, and by the way, one of those is no substitutes is not having a certification, right? Like if you don't have the cert, you don't get looked at. If you have a different certification, you don't get looked at, right? So you need to be smart about the industry you want to work in, where you're carrying your certification, and what it means to that particular industry and those employers. The other piece of it is, it's kind of, I saw this a lot when I was in graduate school. People that went to school to fulfill a personal goal, right? A personal professional goal. They wanted to achieve their certification. They weren't planning on getting a new job. They weren't planning on moving fields or planning on moving employers. Some of them weren't even really in practice, but they wanted to achieve a personal milestone, a personal professional milestone that was challenging, that made them smarter, that got them more knowledgeable and up to speed, current in their own community of practice. And so they invested in the experience of certifying or attending a course or finishing a graduate school program as a way to satisfy that personal goal, right? And then on the backside, obviously, there's value in possessing it. So they look at it as a win-win situation. I would do it without having to get a new job or without pursuing a new career anyways. So no loss, right? So there's a certain amount of personal gratification for some people. So we've talked about industry establishing a professional community of practice, and that community of practice embracing a particular certification, and that's one good reason why you should pursue it. And we've talked about industry partners getting together to develop a unified front that says we only accept this one certification. That's the industry setting its own standard, right? There's another value proposition for those that are interested in seeking certification. And then we've talked about the personal side of this, the goal setting, personal development, professional development type side of it as well. So we can talk about so let's say you're someone that's in a certain industry, but there are multiple certifications in that same industry, right? I'll take project management again because it's a big world of work, and it tends to have a lot of different certifications, right? So you've got the PMP for project management professionals, right, from PMI. Then you also have for agile folks, right? You've got certified Scrum Master. You've got agile practitioner certifications. There's a myriad of different certifications. Some, you can get some of those agile certifications from different bodies, right? Especially when you start talking about, like Scrum. There's not just one Scrum Master certification. You can find several of them from different providers. It's a little less controlled. There's a little less industry selection at play there. Now, you'll have some purists, man. You'll have some people that work in that one world. They've got that one certification. All their friends have that certification. And they don't think any other certification is as good as the one they've got. They don't think any other method is as good as the one they've got. But they don't get to make the rules. Industry does, right? Industry makes the rule. Why does industry make the rule? Because industry is the one hiring people. Industry is the one paying you. Industry, whichever industry that is, whatever community of practice you're working in, will set the pace. So I implore you to look to the industry standard, look to the accepted industry norms, rather than just talk to one or two people about what you should do for certification. Then once you've figured out what the industry you want to work in or you are working in is seeking, then talk to people that have experienced that certification process and learn from them, because there's quite a bit to learn about certifying, no matter what area of professional certification it is. And you also have various levels of certification within communities of practice. So you can become if you're not ready for your PMP yet, you can do the CAPM, right, which is a certified, basically an assistant to a project manager, right? You're an associate project manager. You're not quite all the way there yet to be the PM. The same kind of with the CMRT, right? So the Certified Maintenance and Reliability Technician is not the same level as the Certified Maintenance and Reliability Professional, right? So the technician is more geared toward the technician deck plate level application, and the professional certification is more for your higher tier certification. So if you're not quite ready for the CMRP, you might qualify for and seek the CMRT. Now, here's my beef about all this, okay? It's only as valuable as the industry wants it to be. You can be a professional body that offers certifications, and you could be somebody who is out there in industry seeking certification. And you're looking at each other as the purchaser and the seller, right? I sell certification, you seek certification to purchase. We engage in a professional relationship. I exchange certification for your exchange of money, and off we go, right? And we start the whole process. As long as you meet the requirements and you do all the things you're supposed to do, you get certified. But if I'm the person offering the certification or the person seeking certification, and I don't have a good understanding of what the industry wants, I might be making a big mistake, right? Because if I'm the person selling the certification, I'm maybe selling something that has very little value in industry. And if I'm the person seeking the certification, I might be investing in something that doesn't have much value in industry. And this has been my whole conversation about the CMRT and the CAPM. They're lower tier certifications. I'm not taking away from their value. However, how many industry partners are refusing to hire someone without that certification? The number is pretty low, right? Educate me if I'm wrong. I'm never going to say I'm the only, I know everything or that I'm 100% correct. But you don't see a lot of positions out there saying, if you don't have this certification, you can't apply for the job, right? Technicians tend to have other requirements, like trade licensing or trade certifications. If you're an electrician, the CMRT is not the thing that's going to probably get you the job. They want to see that you're a journeyman or a master. And that goes for a lot of the trade industries. Now, if you're in a trade, you're strictly trade, and you're looking to transition into the CMRT or CMRP world, then the CMRT might be a great stepping stone. But that might be more of a professional and personal milestone than it is a requirement for employment. And there's a very, very, very distinct line between what I want to do and what I have to do to get a job, right? So just something to think about. When you start looking into certifications, always aim higher, get the highest you can, because it usually carries more industry weight. If it's not even worth looking at, then you're kind of wasting your time there as far as that industry weight and industry value goes. And make sure that it is actually prevalent and respected in the industry you seek employment in. If it's not, then you're kind of just doing this for personal reasons, and that is fine. But you should know all of this and be very intentional about it. Okay. Now, if you've got questions or points you want to discuss, go ahead and populate them, throw them up on the chat feed. I'd love to hear from you. I don't want to be the only driver here. If you've got something you want to do or say, and I think it's really important for us as certified professionals that it's not just an acronym behind your name, right? You can take all the acronyms off my name. I'm still capable of all the things I do, and I would expect the same of other people in this conversation that are certified. But it is a way for me to display that value. I can bring this to the table. Now, there's a couple of elements of certification that I think are important for people to know. If you aren't certified in a particular field of practice, you may not understand fully the conversation, the language, the frameworks, the approach of that organization or of that community of practice. And again, the CMRP, a good example for that is that the Society of Maintenance and Reliability Professionals, they lean heavily on certain elements for you to get certified. They want you to understand their best practices document. They want you to understand their body of knowledge, right? The reason they're doing that is they're establishing commonality in their certification body, all right? They want you to understand the common minimums, if you will, that they expect of people in their organization. They want you to understand the same language. They want you to speak about the same measurements and metrics and things. And that's why they're there. They also want to infuse in you an expectation that you will be proficient in these areas. right? And it's the same way with the project management professional certification. If you're a PMP, you better understand PMP language. You won't pass this certification exam without it. There's a lot of people that seek the project management professional certification. They've been a project manager for years. They just don't have that cert. They've never taken a PMP prep course. They've never been through one of those boot camps or even taken a graduate level course that was built around PMI's PMBOK. And they say, well, you know what? I've got 15 years. I'll be fine. They go take the exam and get slaughtered because it's a very particular way of viewing project management. It has you need to be very familiar with the language and the flow of projects in the perspective of PMI. You need to understand when they're talking about hybrids and agile methods and frameworks, how that all works out in their body of knowledge, not in your experience. You have to bring the two together, but you can't exclude one. And that's where the value of certification programs comes in. If you're not the type of person that can just sit down and take a 600-page, the PMBOK, I think, is like 600 and something pages. I don't know why my brain's saying 642. It's been over 2 years since I looked at the actual page count in the book, but it's up there. For you to go ahead and say, I speak the same language as this community of practice in this book without ever looking at it would be crazy, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you need to invest a year of your life into getting certified, but it does mean you need to be familiar with that community of practices, prescribed methods, language, everything. That's what it's there for. That's what the certification carries. This person speaks the language. This person looks at our community of practice and our discipline through this particular lens at a minimum, and you should expect that they can do that. Okay? Now, a couple of tricks of the trade, ways to think about getting certified. Do you need a certification course? Do you need to pursue a boot camp? They can range anywhere from free to thousands of dollars. They can go from 1 day to 1 month. I mean, there's all different types. PMI, the Project Management Institute, they've done a pretty, they've been very intentional this last year and a half or so about streamlining the certification training that's available and eligible before you take their exam. You have to prove that you have 35 contact hours. Having that through a PMI certified training provider didn't used to be a very big deal. It is a very big deal now. So you need to look into that. If you're looking at the PMP, you need to make sure that you're going to be able to claim your contact hours with PMI, that you're not just wasting your time and money, paying some schlep to give you their attention, and they just take your money and don't really deliver on what you should have before you apply for your exam. That's apply for your exam, not take your exam. Apply for your exam. You have to prove those hours. And then with the CMRP, as another example, there are plenty of industry professionals out there that provide training, but you want to make sure that they are someone that other people in the industry recommend, right? So I'll take RCM as an example. I'm partnered with Jesus Safante of PDM Tech and Conscious Reliability. Why did I team up with Jesus? Jesus is a respected person in the RCM training world, and he's a well-known and established RCM consultant. So automatically he's got industry recognition and clout, and his course is very, very good. As a person who's been through those experiences and those training courses before, I was able to look over his curriculum and say, wow, this is fantastic. He may or may not have written the book on it. He's got an actual book on the topic that's an industry accepted text. And he's been certifying, hundreds, if not thousands of people for many years. He's also a member of the I'm going to butcher this. I think it's the IRCC, and I'm terrible. Sorry, guys, if it's IRRC or IRCC. I'm going to look it up real quick. IRCC. I wanted to make sure. Sorry about that. And that's an international group that has come together to establish some framework around RCM certification to try and build a little bit more validity into that in industry. So now if you're an industry partner, you can say, this person's got their resume in front of me, and it shows that they've got an RCM certification through the IRCC. This is fantastic. Versus it says they're certified, but I don't recognize the certifying body. You can look at the IRCC. You don't even have to know about the certification. You can just look at the list of professionals that are involved in the IRCC, and you'll know that you're looking at a legit certification. because of who is involved in issuing the certification and establishing the standard. These are very, very, very well-known industry professionals. Okay, so those are my big points on certification. You've got to look at what the industry values. You have to look at what that particular certification requires. You have to look at what your personal goals are for working in that industry. You have to look at whether it's going to be a discriminator in the hiring process for you in a particular industry. And you need to look at whether it's reflective of what you're actually trying to do, right? If I'm over here seeking the PMP, but really what I'm trying to do is get into agile certifications, well, that's great and all, but it might not be the thing I'm actually seeking. I might find halfway through it that I was actually seeking this other certification. So do your homework, find out that you're looking at the right certification. Okay. So with all that being said, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you guys to follow us on LinkedIn. Here's my little tag here for the page on LinkedIn, East Partnership. Of course, you should follow us here on YouTube as well. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the little button, do your thing. It's going to be great. And you're always welcome to check us out at eastpartnership.org. We've got all kinds of exciting things. There's literally like a new course coming out every month. And I do want to give a short pitch for the community, the life cycle community that I've recently kicked off. It is by far, and I haven't been preaching this, I'm probably going to regret this, but it is by far the most valuable proposition on the whole site as far as like what you get for the amount you pay. I wanted to provide people an opportunity to invest a certain smaller amount every month rather than have to pay the several $100s. So if you pay $50 a month to join the Lifecycle community on East Partnership, you automatically are enrolled in both the maintenance task analysis and the level of repair analysis courses. That's like $600 worth of course, $50 a month, okay? And I trickle feed those courses so that you get a new lesson every week. So it keeps bringing you back so you stay engaged. And you'll complete those 2 courses over the course of 2 or 3 months. So, do the math. I'm kind of throwing the bait out there a little bit. If I depended on these courses for my living, I wouldn't be able to do this. But because I don't, I get to give back a little bit. And I'm doing this for a very particular reason. I want people engaged in the community. I want it to be fun. I want to be able to provide you guys with a subscription service and make it a little bit easier for people that maybe don't, have either the means or the desire to push up that much money all at once to buy courses. So it's the same exact course, MTA course and level of repair analysis course, but it's trickle fed, 1 lesson a week. Each of those lessons is about an hour. It gives you time to really digest that lesson for the week, invest in studying it, diving deeper into the content, and then continuing your studies as the weeks progress. And again, $50 a month, so you can't beat it. What else do you get? I'm going to do live sessions solely with that group. If you're not in the community, you won't have access to those live sessions where we can just talk, me and you, anyone else who's in the community that wants to join. Ask any questions. We could talk about the curriculum. We can talk about, whatever. We could talk about certifications if you want. We could talk about any of it. So yeah, super awesome deal when you look at the amount of value that you get out of it. And my dream is also to produce certain written content exclusively for that group. And then, of course, maybe have access to some early content before everyone else gets it as well. So when we go to launch new courses, we might put them out just for membership first, give those guys a discount, give you guys a chance to see the curriculum first, that kind of stuff. So anyways, think about it if it's something you're interested in. If you haven't yet signed up for courses at eastpartnership.org, I implore you to go ahead and do it. So anyways, that's it for today. Guys, keep tuning in. My schedule's a little crazy this month because of some other work obligations, so I'm not able to do the regular time every week. But this week, we're trying to get Suzanne Greenman on Wednesday. I'm not going to make any promises today because I still have to solidify the calendar a little bit. But Suzanne and I are going to be going live here on Life Cycles Live to talk about asset information management. Super critical. Her course is amazing. And I think you guys will really enjoy the conversation because it couldn't be more important than a time in history than right now to talk about asset information management and how you should approach your data. So, okay, guys, appreciate all of you. Don't forget to subscribe, do your thing, and I'll talk to you soon.